The Audioslave World Album premiere, Tom Morello, guitar. First question. Can you give us a rundown on how this whole project got together? The Audioslave thing.
Certainly. In the beginning of 2001, Timmy, Brad, and I were conspiring with our producer, Rick Rubin, to decide what next musical step we were going to take. There was really only one singer who we considered, and that was Chris Cornell. And we drove up to his house and had a little talk, and it seemed like he was very enthusiastic about what we wanted to do, because we told him that we did not want to rest on our laurels. We didn't want to settle for what we had done in the past, that we wanted the next thing we did to be the greatest thing that we did. And he was pretty excited by that. And we just started jamming. And we wrote 21 songs in 19 days. And it was so clear that there was a great chemistry between the four of us that it just went from there. The first rehearsal we jammed, the next rehearsal we wrote a song, the next rehearsal we wrote a song. It was like every day we would come in and we're like, it was unbelievable. Like they were just dropping from the trees. And at first it was the songs we were writing, which the first batch, which later became Light My Way, Bring 'Em Back Alive, and Exploder, were big, like riff rocking monster jams. But then the next batch were the music that was different than anything any of us had played, like A Stone or I'm the Highway, The Last Remaining Light, or Hypnotized. We're like, this is like, it's crazy. Like we felt invincible, that we could play just about anything.
Very cool. You kind of touched on it, but can you put into words how excited you guys are about this project? Yeah,
well, it's really thrilling. Because it's not a given when two musical forces combined that it's going to be any good, and what we are so fortunate about is that we have a great chemistry with Chris. We know that between Timmy and Brad and I that we can drop some rock on you and it's gonna hurt, but we didn't know how it would be integrating with Chris, and we found that it was so creatively liberating, and he pushed us in different directions we had never thought of playing before, and we did the same for him. And it was just so exciting. We were just writing, it was like a jam a day, and we couldn't believe it. We wrote and recorded more new songs in 8 months with Chris than we did in the previous 8 years with Rage Against the Machine.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What did you take with you into the studio, if you put some conscious thought into this, from your musical past? And did you try to leave anything behind? Did you say, okay, I've got to stop doing this, and I'm going to try to do...
Yeah.
You understand where I'm going with
that? Yeah. The modus operandi for the whole project was not to try to meet or match people's expectations. It was, we were going to see what this band is with these four guys from scratch, regardless of what our musical, past might be. And that, with that as a given, then we were on a path to defy people's expectations and to stretch people's expectations and to trump their expectations of what they might have had when they first read those names together in the paper. And that was what felt liberating. I mean, it wasn't a band that's where we said, we've got an idea and this is what the band's going to be. We said, we're a band and let's see what ideas come from that, and it's a different way of looking at it. And it bore pretty exciting fruit.
Cool. Again, you kind of touched on this again, but I'd like to bring this up. How important have you learned something about the chemistry that you have now with Chris as a new act, as Audioslave, and how important is that chemistry in the creative process?
Yeah, well, the chemistry is everything. It's absolutely everything with the band, and that's why we're so blessed to work with Chris, because it's not just that he's a great singer, but he is a great singer who sings great with us, and works well in a way that makes really compelling music, and music that we're proud of, and can't wait to unleash on an unsuspecting world.
Unleash is an excellent way of describing it.
Or I guess a suspecting world. I think that chemistry is everything, and that you can never take for granted. Just because you meld, talents, that it's going to be something that is worthwhile. But we even considering our formidable past, I think that we've created something that is still even greater than the sum of its parts. It's really exciting. I mean, it's the most exciting and liberating musical experience that we've had.
How do you feel the legacy that your past project has left on music today, and how do you feel about that? And can you give us sort of an idea?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're tremendously proud of our, of our Rage Against the Machine passes. I know Chris is with his solo stuff and with Soundgarden, but I think it's important to impress people. This is a new band. This band is not those bands, and we've started from day one, year zero, building this band from scratch and writing songs from scratch with new horizons that we are unapologetic and unafraid and unbending about, rocking you in a powerful way. And, and clearly who we are as musicians and who we have been as musicians seeps into it, but it is a brand new band and deserves to be judged on its own terms.
You're talking about the music and the impact that it's going to have on people and how powerful it is. But the thing that I got from the listening party that we had last night is that, yes, it's relentless. It just keeps coming at you. And I think Rick Rubin probably had a lot to do with this. The album Breeze as well. It gives you a chance to sit back and go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a sonic diversity on the album that we've never approached before, and within the context of still, it's just guitar, bass, drums, and vocals. There's no digital, keyboards, whatever people use, sequencers or whatever. And we've still managed to explore a lot of brand new musical territory, and that we've sometimes we would say at rehearsal, when we were deep into the writing process, what would it sound like if with guitars, bass, and drums, we tried to play a Chemical Brothers song or a Portishead song. And it doesn't sound like, Led Zeppelin, and it doesn't sound like Portishead, but it sounds like something brand new. Like that I think an example of that might be The Last Remaining Light. Or when we attempted sort of a Chemical Brothers song, there's a song called Hypnotize, which doesn't sound like anything we've ever played before, but it's still clearly a product of those four musicians. And that's what, it was so exciting about writing these songs and continues to be exciting about, working together.
What do you think about music today? And is it healthy, in your opinion?
To me, it seems like artistically, it seems very unhealthy, and several of the things that are so unhealthy in it is on the one hand, this kind of rush for bands to try to make a name for themselves so they can sell their songs to commercials. That's something that is just, it wasn't that long ago, maybe 10 years ago, where you would be drummed out of the music business if you did a beer commercial. Now bands are clawing over each other to sell their artistic souls to try to help some, boost their careers by selling, whether it's Jaguars or
yeah.
Desenex, I don't know. That to me is like why there isn't a revolt in the streets by music fans. Because what the problem with that is as a fan of music, I invest in the bands that I love and in the music that they make. And it's such a betrayal to take that kind of intimate relationship you have with a band and their music, and what they're basically doing is they then sell that to some corporation which uses that intangible sort of precious bond that the band has created with their artists to try to move, Frosted Flakes or whatever it is. It's like you can't turn on the TV now without seeing somebody selling it's either malt liquor or some crappy new car. And that mortgaging of artistic souls like that is just it just is unbelievable. I can't stand it.
Okay. What's your take on the face of the music industry is changing, and it dramatically, especially in the last couple of years with the internet. What's your take on the impact on the music business that the internet has had, and on the impact that the internet has had on audio?
Yeah. I mean, well, I think that the future really is unknowable with regards to how it's going to evolve over the next couple of years. It may be that we no longer have record companies or record stores, in the not too distant future. How it's impacted us has been like, for me, the most important thing is that your music is disseminated. The most important thing is that people hear our music. It's not like there's some artists and record companies like dig in and they're like, well, if people download it on the internet, it's the end of all things. Well, you make music so that people will hear it to begin with. Having said that, there were from 2 summers ago, there were some demos of ours that got leaked to the internet, which was really like a stab in our hearts because they were unfinished, different versions of the songs that have none of the power or vitality of this record, of the Audioslave record that we've made, and yet they were mistaken and continue to be mistaken by a lot of people to be our album. And at the end of the day, whether you buy the Audioslave record, steal the Audioslave record, or download the Audioslave record, please make sure you have the right one. And that's the one that comes out on November 19th, not the crap that's on the internet now.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. What happened with the name Civilian? Because you're obviously referring to the Civilian demos.
Yeah, well, the name Civilian was never announced by the band. It was announced by previous managers of ours, which are not managers of ours anymore. I mean, this is the first time when you're actually hearing from band members, and the name of the band is Audioslave. We had some problems in the past, which I think is, honestly, I'll say is very boring to rock listeners, but sort of with our managerial situation, and Chris had a manager and we had managers, and they didn't get along, and they tried to sort of one up each other constantly in the with a press war of their own to try to be the first to give information that turned out was incorrect.
Okay, your past political stances have been well documented. Does Audioslave have a political agenda? Are you going to carry that through?
Well, personally, I've never carried it through more. Myself, along with Serge from System of a Down, have established an organization called Axis of Justice.
Okay, I was reading about that.
Yeah, which you can learn about at axisofjustice.org. And it's it's probably the most vital political thing that I've been involved in my life. It's in response to, recently our, dear president here has been talking about an axis of evil, which is menacing the world. Well, the axis of evil that I believe is menacing the world is the pandemic poverty, the degradation of the environment, and the proliferation of arms around the globe. And the axis of justice is a coming together of musicians, fans of music, and activists to combat that. Through the years, the number one question that fans have asked me politically is, well, I agree with your politics, whatever, but what can I do? Axis of Justice answers that question. At our website and what we do, we provide and I'm not sure how deep we are into Canada, but it will be as we move forward. But wherever you live, it will give you direct contact information for you to get involved in grassroots activist organizations to make social change in your hometown. And whether it's from providing help for individuals who suffer from physical and sexual abuse in their homes, to helping to organize against this growing cycle of violence around the world, and specifically stopping this stupid war with this bubbling war with Iraq. It gives you an opportunity to really plug in, and today, tonight and tomorrow, you can be involved through Axis of Justice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Coming from Canada, I didn't vote him in, and George Bush scares the shit.
Neither did we.
Yeah.
Neither did we.
Yeah.
He didn't win the popular election, and there was a coup in the Supreme Court. So that's something we have in common. None of us voted him in.
Yeah, it's quite disturbing to see. I wanted to ask this question when we were talking about the legacy that you left on music today, but we didn't get on it. We didn't get the path that I wanted, so I want to touch on it now. What do you think Audioslave's impact is going to be on music now?
Yeah, I think it's impossible to sort of predict what the impact will be. What I do know is that the genesis of the music is something that is completely honest and is completely true as music and as art, and I think that is rare on the radio these days. There's so many packaged acts and copycat acts, and this is something that is really a genuine and kind of our own unique contribution to what is going on now, and it sounds very different than everything on the radio to me right now.
Yes, very cool, very cool. I was just so blown away. Is there, obviously there's talk about a tour? Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you can give us? Are you doing anything in the new year?
Yeah, we're not. Well, we're hoping to go out before the end of this year. To do a spate of dates. We'll definitely be touring in the new year. Our tour plans are unknown right now. There will certainly be touring, and I think it's important to know that Audioslave is a band. It's not a project. It's not a one-off. It's not a hobby. It's a band where we will make albums and tours and do interviews with Canadian radio stations and continue on. It's not a dalliance. It's something that we're committed to and believe in.
Very cool. Is there a band out there right now that you wouldn't mind taking on tour with you? Can you think of anybody?
That's a good question. I was somebody asked me this the other day too, like what been listening to, and I don't know. I guess each band when they tour has to sort of find its own feet and who they feel comfortable touring with, and there's some, like, I really love the Doves. I think that's a really beautiful record. But I haven't heard a lot lately that's really, turned me on. I mean, I like that new Bruce Springsteen record, but I don't think that he's going to open for us anytime soon. One thing though that I have, that this doesn't have to do with opening bands, but the sort of the thing culturally that I've been most impressed with lately is Michael Moore's new movie Bowling for Columbine, which you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely see it. It's the most kind of brilliant discussion of violence in America, and actually it paints a very rosy picture of Canada in it. It's very sort of pro-Canadian take in it. Yeah.
We're doing okay then.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting. It's the best movie I've seen in a long time. So.
We talked a lot about the record and the direction that you went with the record. One of the things that my producer and I were talking about last night is we know your past, and we know what it is that you've done on your Rage records, and we know how you feel about sitting down with a guitar. How many freaking pedals do you have? Like these sounds that you're coming up with.
It's the same 4 freaking pedals that I've had since 1991. I don't feel I don't like changing it's the same amp, it's the same guitars, basically, and certainly the same pedals that I've used since then. It's just it's a matter of kind of applying imagination to your work, as opposed to I've never, like, I don't understand new gear, and I don't want it. It's a matter of just sort of like applying your creativity to what it is that you've got. That's how I come up with the different stuff.
Very cool. My last question. I always save a stupid question for the last.
Sure.
I've got tons of pictures of on all the albums. You always seem to be wearing a ball cap. Have you got a favorite ball cap?
Actually, I've got some sort of new headgear going on now, but for the interview, I'm sporting this would probably be my favorite cap. Here would be I'm sporting a Chicago Cubs ball cap now, which is the great. You can tell I root for the underdog and a fan of the great lost cause. It's my baseball team, of course, which has not won the World Series since 1908. It doesn't look to be winning at any time in the near future till 2108. But that'd probably be my favorite one I got to represent for my Chicago Cubs.
The Locker Room.
Brought to you by Always Plumbing and Heating.
Weekday mornings on 95.7 Cruise FM.